hands-on with some of the top iPhone XR features. Check it out. How's it going, guys? Jeff Benjamin with 9 to 5 Mac. We are looking right now at the iPhone XR. This is a very highly anticipated release for Apple. It is not the top of the line iPhone. That claim goes to the iPhone XS and XS Max. However, it should easily be the more popular iPhone in my opinion because of what it offers for the price. When it comes to pure value, this phone is definitely a better buy than the iPhone XS. And in some respects, this phone is actually better than the iPhone XS, which is hard to believe, but yeah, it is true. We'll discuss that in a little bit. So inside the box, you get your typical iPhone stuff, the phone, of course. You get some documentation. You get this little guy right here, your 5-watt adapter, which is going to charge your phone super slow, but it gets the job done. And yeah, they're still packing that in there, even though the phone is capable of fast charging. You also get a pair of AirPods, which connect to your iPhone using a Lightning connection. Of course, no 3.5mm headphone jack and no dongle in the box either to connect legacy headphones, so keep that in mind. You also have your Lightning cable, which can connect to your power adapter or connect to your Mac if you want to sync with your Mac. Okay, we've checked out the hardware. Let's briefly look at some of the documentation. Of course, you get your welcome little materials there, which kind of introduce you to how to use your phone, which actually can be pretty useful this time around, especially if you're upgrading from an iPhone 8, iPhone 7, one of the phones with a physical home button. That documentation might indeed learn you something. You also have a SIM eject tool, some regulatory information, and of course what we've been waiting on. Wait for it. Yes, indeed, the Apple stickers. There we go. My job's done here. But seriously, let's talk price. Let's compare it to the iPhone XS, which starts at $1,000 and goes all the way up to $1,350 for 512 gigabytes of storage. Now compare that to the iPhone XR. None of the configurations go over $1,000, and you can get in the game for just $750, which is still a lot of money. I mean, let's be honest here, that's still a lot of money, but it's not $1,000. Here's what's really cool though. You can upgrade, double your storage to 128 gigabytes for just $50 more. Now, when you hear 6.1-inch display, you might think, wow, that's pretty big, but actually, side by side with the iPhone X or iPhone XS, it really doesn't look much bigger at all, even though it is physically bigger. And even though 6.1 inches for a phone sounds like a lot, really it isn't when compared to the iPhone X, and especially when compared to the iPhone XS Max, which is absolutely mammoth compared to the iPhone XR, as you can see right here. But what really stands out about the iPhone XR to me is that Apple isn't asking customers to make a bunch of compromises. No, most of the features that you find with the flagship phones, including the brand new A12 Bionic processor, are included with the iPhone XR. Now the XR does have 3 gigabytes of RAM, just like the X, the XS Max, and the XS have 4 gigabytes of RAM, so that is a difference there. But when you run the Geekbench benchmarks for the CPU, you're gonna notice that the XR ain't no slouch, as you can see right there. It is actually performing a little bit better than the XS Max, as you can see. Excellent bang for the buck. And it doesn't stop there. You get the same enhanced wide-angle camera with that larger sensor, the same one you find on the XS and XS Max. And as we previously explained, because Apple kept the amount of megapixels the same, it means larger pixels, which can in turn gather more light, which results in better low-light performance. This camera is really good. Let me test it out for you. Let me show you what I mean here. So I have a setup here in low light conditions. Here's my iPhone X. I take the same photo with the XR, almost said XS. And once we zoom in, the difference is apparent immediately. Much more grainy results from the iPhone X when compared to the XR. And like the XS and XS Max, you get the same true depth front-facing camera that's been upgraded to support 60 frames per second 1080p video capture right there from the front-facing camera. Whoever thought we'd see something like that? 1080p, 60 frames per second front-facing camera. Downright amazing. and it's here on the so-called budget iPhone. And because this is a legitimate true depth camera with all the bells and whistles right there in that sensor housing area, you get things like Animoji. So for the first time, budget users, and I use the term budget lightly because $750 is not budget in my opinion, but budget users now have access to Animoji. So it should be a lot more pervasive now that more people can gain access to it. And Memoji, of course, is there as well, a new feature for iOS 12, allowing you to create your own custom Animoji. And even though the XR lacks the dual camera setup with that extra telephoto lens, you can still use portrait mode. Now granted, it only works with people unlike the dual camera portrait mode, but it's still really impressive. You get a wide angle view and you get better low light performance because it's using that wide angle lens. And you have the ability to adjust depth of field in post for portrait mode photos. You can go from f16 to f1.4 and adjust background blur in post. Now, one of the things I raved about in my iPhone XS features video was Smart HDR, and it's super impressive, and it's just as impressive here on the XR. Skipping all the technical jargon, it just means your photos are going to look better when there's extremely light or extremely dark elements in those photos. Thanks to the multiple microphones on the XR, you can record sound in stereo when you're recording videos, and you can play it back on your iPhone directly since it has stereo speakers, or export it. Hopefully you can hear that left and right sound separation. And like the XS, when shooting 30 frames per second videos in low light, it can automatically lower the frame rate to help out in less than ideal lighting conditions. Face ID is available on the iPhone XR, which is great. It allows you to unlock your phone with your face. Easy to set up. Let me show you how easy it is. So all you do, look at the screen and kind of twirl your head around like that. Once all the green bars are full, just tap on continue and do it one more time. So just rotate your head. And we're done. Super simple, super easy. Keep in mind that Face ID up until now has been exclusive to the high-end iPhone. It's a welcome addition. The most obvious difference between the XR and the XS are the colors, right? There are 6 different brilliant colors to choose from, including white, black, blue, yellow, coral, and product red. Now I opted for the blue iPhone XR, and really, even this video, but definitely the press images, don't do it justice. Look at the color matched anodized aluminum band and the antenna lines. Gotta appreciate the attention to detail there. It's like a rebirth of the colorful iPhone 5C of yesteryear, which is one of my favorite iPhones ever. And there's new iPhone XR centric wallpaper. These bubble wallpapers come in all sorts of colors to match the various colors of the iPhone XR. For instance, I especially like the look of the blue bubble on the blue iPhone. I just think it looks great. But lots of new wallpaper there to choose from. Find what works for you. And Apple has what they're calling, I love Apple's marketing, liquid Retina display. Only Apple could come up with something that sounded so ridiculous. But it is a very impressive LCD display. Obviously, it has a backlight, so you're not going to get those rich, deep blacks that you get from OLED. But it's nonetheless an impressive display. Now, obviously, if you're looking at it from an angle, especially in a dark environment, that backlight's going to become a little bit more obvious. But if you're looking straight at the iPhone XR, it's actually pretty good. And it's so impressive how they were able to get that all-screen design with the LCD going all into the corners like that. And here's another thing, colors are super accurate on the iPhone XR and it supports wide color. So you saw, well, you didn't see the wide color test on the iPad, the entry-level iPad I just showed you, but here you can actually see the logo because it supports wide color. You couldn't see it on the iPad because the iPad didn't support wide color. But here's where things get really interesting. When you think of battery life, you think automatically, get the biggest iPhone, right? The iPhone XS Max is going to be the best with battery life, right? No, the iPhone XR has the best battery life of any iPhone ever. It matches talk time and audio playback of the iPhone XS Max and actually surpasses the XS Max in internet usage and video playback. That's crazy good battery life. Now, if you made it this far into the video, I'm pretty sure you figured out by now that there's no home button on the iPhone XR. So what does that mean? Well, it means you use iPhone X-esque gestures. So you can swipe up and hold for a second to invoke the app switcher. I know there's other ways to do that, folks. I know some people are gonna comment, there's other ways to do that, Jeff. Yeah, that's cool. You can also swipe to the left or to the right on the home indicator to switch between apps. There's just so many different gestures. Check out our gestures video linked above for more details. When you think of tap to wake, you usually think of OLED displays, but here on the iPhone XR, you get tap to wake on an LCD display, which is really cool. I love tap to wake. Once you use it, you never want to go back, so I'm happy to know that the XR has it. And then the last feature we'll touch on, that's really funny, huh? Is Haptic Touch, which is basically glorified long pressing with haptic feedback. 3D Touch isn't included, which is a bummer admittedly, but Haptic Touch does work in specific areas on your phone. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been a look at some of the top iPhone XR features, but should you buy an iPhone XR? Should you hold off? We'll consider that in an upcoming video. Thumbs up if you appreciate this video, and let me know what you think down below in the comments. This is Jeff with 9 to 5 Mac.